what's going on everyone? Welcome back to Salty Roots. It's Joe. Thanks for checking out another video. What we will show you today is a quick update on the 125 gallon tank and what we plan to do with that system. Hopefully you caught the last video on the Predator tank. So again, switching gears over to the 125 now. What you'll see shortly is me installing a UV sterilizer onto the 125 because I do plan on having some tangs in that tank. So definitely want to have a UV there, and you'll see some trials, tribulations, and overall kind of future direction of that tank. Let's go ahead and get that UV installed and see what happens with this tank.
Now, there is another fish that I've always wanted as well, and just never had due to the fact that it's an ick magnet. If you had to guess the number one ick magnet tank there is, you would be correct. It is a powder blue. Always wanted them, just thought they were absolutely beautiful. I love the color on them. And now I have these multiple systems again, I felt as though I could go ahead and pull the trigger on the powder blue. So it of course is in a quarantine tank. It's in therapeutic levels of copper. I use copper power until I'll hit the 2-week mark, at which point he can go into his forever home, which is going to be this 125, maybe mix tank. I maybe have corals, I'm not sure. I have 3 AI hydras on it, so coral would be just fine. But the podcast I referenced earlier, where Ryan and Elliot were talking about, quarantining and doing the right thing. They had said just avoid Achilles tank, or avoid any powder tank. And if you're going to have one, just put it in a fish-only system because corals can bring pests into the system. And so they had mentioned individuals that we commented saying, I've had a powder blue forever, and they called it just a ticking time bomb. And so listening to that, as I'm knowing that this guy's sitting at home in the quarantine, I just really started to question my plan here. And so would love to hear any thoughts or comments on what I should do. Obviously I have the Red Sea Reefer that's going to be the SPS dominant tank. I have the 125 with live rock, but right now the plan is to have a couple of tangs and just some easy to keep coral, and I was going to have the 150 be the fish only system. So question is, should I do this 125 back here as my fish only system, and then I would also of course sell my 150, so I would just have essentially a fish only system here and the Red Sea Reefer for corals, or keep the plan the same. Like I said, keep this as some tangs and some easy to keep coral. I do have a UV sterilizer on the tank, and so that's going to help with potential outbreaks. And then keep this 150 over here being a fish only predator tank with our puffer and a lionfish and potentially an eel. Kylie is fighting me on the eel, but I'd really like to have one in there. So I'm not sure. The only other reason I would consider getting rid of this tank over here, the predator tank, and kind of scrapping it, is because underneath the sump is just what I had lying around. It's tiny. It's a 15 gallon sump, so of course that's going to overflow. If we have a power outage, that's just clearly not a big enough tank for a 150 to account for potential power outage. Now the holes are drilled pretty high, so it's not going to drain that much, but still for a 15 gallon, there's that danger and risk that is there. So I don't know. I definitely want to keep all 3 tanks, but I'd be interested to hear anyone else's advice or thoughts. Obviously, I could just get a bigger sump. They're pretty easy to make. But I don't know. I really think the powder blue looks really cool on this black background in here. This is the new tank, so it has no scratches in it. It's just a really nice tank. Ideal world, I'd like to have that powder blue. I'm not sure, powder blues can be a little aggressive, so I have to be careful about what I'll put in there with it. But that's kind of the plan for now and where we're at.
So unfortunately, I'm sad to report the powder blue actually ended up not making it. I did quarantine him as stated earlier for the full 2 weeks, but I did make a big mistake in getting him in the first place. I won't mention the name of the shop where I picked him up, but their tanks looked really, really bad. And so that's obviously gonna be a number one sign to not purchase livestock there. It was an impulse buy, I will say, but I thought I could, heal the fish because he did have some visible signs of ick, knowing I was going to bring him home and put him in therapeutic copper. So many advise against that. I will as well. I won't do that anymore. Think that you can save a visibly, very sick fish. So mistake on my end for sure. I did get him looking pretty healthy after that 2 weeks, as you saw in the video. I thought at least looked great. He was swimming around, he was eating, no visible signs of ick. When I did come home and find him on that unfortunate day, I noticed that his fin was looking pretty rough. So fin rot, likely bacterial infection. Not sure, just another reason. If that fish looks sick in the store, there's just too many things that could possibly go wrong with it, even if you treat for one thing. So again, I would advise against it. All that being said, I kind of changed directions. I decided against the powder blue tang, just not only for the ick, but just general, thin mucus layer it has, and just how susceptible it is to, really any illness. And so at least for now, I'm gonna stay away from that. I did decide to go down to the Reef and look at the tang selection they had there. And as you'll see here, I did find another tang that I went ahead and picked up. Now the Reef, all of their fish looked great. I was talking to the individual there. They actually run copper in their tanks because they don't have coral in the tanks where they keep their fish. That doesn't necessarily mean that they've been in there for a full 2 weeks at therapeutic level. I highly doubt they have, but at least, there's no visible signs of illness. They have been, in tanks with medication in them. So I do feel a lot better about purchasing a fish, from that location. So that's what we ended up doing, and you will see that update now. thanks again for checking out another video on Salty Roots. Just a quick heads up, I will be out of town over the next week. If you've noticed, I've tried to upload a new video every single week on the later end of the week there. But Kylie and I's anniversary is actually over the 4th of July, so we're gonna head up to the northern part of Michigan and try our hand at some tent camping. We typically don't do that kind of thing, so excited to try that out, ride our bikes around and check things out up there up north. So again, probably won't have a video coming out next week, but rest assured as soon as we get back, I will make sure I get everything updated and a new one out at that time. So thanks again, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.